Okay, live from Nashville. Welcome to Angel Update. It's August 27th, 2022. And thanks everyone for being flexible. The decision went right out of my hands last week. I didn't have internet. And in retrospect, I'm glad. I don't think I was really quite landed after that cross-country drive with my cat, but I'm feeling very present now. So delighted to bring you news from Angels Ariel Raphael, and we'll just see what they have to say. And as usual, you're welcome to type questions in the chat. I'll check those every so often. And we'll get started here in just a moment. This is Raphael, Angel Raphael. So if you were to be on a wave or under a wave, it's a different experience, right? If you were to be at the mountain above a tidal wave or at the ocean floor below, it's quite different experience, right? So perspective here is very, very important. Your perspective on the journey. None of this, let's rephrase, it's all temporary here. Each plant, each house, each planet, each person eventually will disintegrate or meet some end or other, right? That's part of the game of being either inorganic or organic in a life form type of life where there is something to decay or change or evolve. The beauty of this is there's change and evolution. And then if you like things to be the same, if you wish you were made out of plastic, it doesn't happen, right? You change, you weather, you age, you mature, wisdom perhaps increases or decreases over time. But in any case, there's movement, there's flow. So the perspective on that, for example, could be, oh, how horrifying, everything dies. Or the perspective could be, how alive and vibrant and wonderful, I never know quite what to expect in this moment. And what am I learning and listening and calling upon and creating, given the molecules that are here right now, listening and available in me and in others. So perspective when you're looking at the global circumstance or the circumstance in your neighborhood or town is going to be very important here this year. The next month, 2 months, 3 months, it looks like there are some huge openings here for humankind in terms of evolution. They're not all challenge points, some of them are. But if you can remember, I'm here to evolve, I'm here to learn, that's, we would say, the perspective that's going to give you the most vantage point, like the hilltop above the tsunami, rather than feeling pressed down under the ocean current, can't breathe, no way out. There's this inevitable sense of change in many, many, many areas right now. So if you look at change as either natural, neutral, or positive, well, thank goodness I was born into a life where there could be change and I'm not stuck, I'm not made of plastic. This, we would suggest, is the vantage point where you have the most resilience, flexibility, and so on, to be alive, to be now, and to see things as they are, which are opportunities, challenges, growth moments, moments to pause, whatever they are. It's going to be a mix of a lot of things. Like any given day in the ocean, it's not one thing. So we don't mention tsunamis to say that we see destruction. That's not the case. But a wave is a good analogy for those of you who have attempted to be on top of one and sometimes been under one. It's a very different experience. And in what we're talking about now, you have that uplift potential. We'll do some exercises together. You have that potential to be either like the helicopter above all of the waves, or at least to be on the top of your wave, to ride it, to have a pleasant experience, a thrilling experience with it, even instead of feeling that you're pushed under by an inevitable change and a force greater than I am. This idea of the change is greater than I am is a false concept. It's rooted in ego, which we've talked about before, as a neutral kind of shell that defines the I as separate from something else. So remember, when you come into that vantage point opportunity to say this change is greater than I am, you can shift your perspective, and we'll give you some tools for this. Because from angelic standpoint, what's happening for humankind, again, in the next few months, tremendous openings to see things as they are and to create and shape the world in new ways. So when you're going to create and shape the world in new ways, it means you're coming out of a cookie cutter or stencil shape. You're coming out of a system or structure which is very rigid and defined. And that, as we've said before, can bring fear with it. Just change, the idea of change. But again, from angelic viewpoint, it's quite lovely to see you break free, to come into the creative potential of surfing or riding above the waves, to feel the thrill, the exhilaration of this moment. So this is the first tool. When you hear something, or read something online, or someone says something, or you feel something, if you're quite empathic, and the thoughts go to future self. How will I define myself? How will I protect or support myself? Where will I be? How will this change for me? None of that is real, right? What is future self? It doesn't exist. So the first tool is to come right into present. This is going to be quite important if you want to have perspective, the availability to shift and be the perspective maker instead of just being subjected to whatever fear or wind is in the media or someone beside you. So the first tool is right here in this present moment. What am I? What's going on? What do I smell? What do I taste? Am I alive? Do I need something? Do I need to take some action? So let's give another weather scenario, because again, we don't see this as what's going to play out, so it helps to give a concept that's a bit neutral. If you heard a flood was coming in 7 days, okay, there's some action steps. Well, a flood might come. Is my house above the water line? Do I have somewhere else to go in case? Do I have something packed? This flood may or may not come. Do I have a plan? So there are some action steps, but not too many, right then. Do I want extra food in case the road is flooded to the store, but I can stay in my home? Those kinds of things. Do I have to worry about my roof? Or the floor, the ground, the foundation of the house? Are there action steps, sandbags, whatever it is? So it's staying resilient, staying awake, alive to the moment, but when there's nothing to do, that future may or may not exist. And again, at each step of the way, okay, rain really is coming now, it's still forecasted, all right, I've put into plan my first step, or I'm going to go ahead and go to my cousin's, my neighbor's house because it's a little too risky to wait around for this one. So sometimes there are practical steps, and sometimes it's about recognizing, well, this flood might come, but it might not, and until I'm in that moment, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't really turn off the weather right now. Most of you cannot. So you can certainly pray for grace to have the understanding, the intuition, or otherwise the synchronicity to be in the right place at the right time, to have the help you need, those kinds of things. But more and more we want to urge you Be right here in the present moment. Because when you're right in the present moment, it's clearer for you also to, so let's say, staying with the flood scenario. All right, what's most important to me? Is it a dry house? Is it that I have a carrier for my dog or cat? Is it that I have some food stocked by? Is it that I have a plan? Right now, what's most important to me? To feel resilient, safe, alive. And that'll be different for each of you. That's the resilience, the beauty, the power of the present moment, and how you step into yourself as a creator, co-creator of this. Because any one person's flood, even if it occurs, is a miracle, is a fun day for some, is a dreaded event for others. Not everyone weathers storms the same way, right? So even in that, you have quite an ability to be in perspective. But the more that you are in the moment of the present, okay, right now there is no lightning striking my house. The easier it is to be in the now and resilient, adaptive, responsive. Redaptive, if we can make a new word, yes. Absolutely. So, all of these things, very useful to stay in the present, because most things, many things that have a warning, this is going to or may happen in the future, do not occur. So you put yourself through unnecessary lost sleep and so on if you are projecting continually into a future, because the future does not exist. If you come into the present, it might clearly, oh, I need to get some matches. There may be some action to take. We're not saying that you pretend that nothing untoward will ever happen to you. But the continual projections of all the things that might go wrong don't serve you. They don't serve you. So bringing yourself into the present is the first tool and perspective. And again, we're not talking about literal floods, but it's a useful analogy because it's something quote-unquote real. It may or may not happen. It could be devastating in a certain sense, certainly life-changing for a while, life-altering, change where you live, that kind of thing. Or take you for a little swim to a rescue boat. So maybe you lose your clothing, your wardrobe, whatever it is. But do you lose your life? Do you change your life? Or does it not happen at all? Those are things that you craft and create and co-create with right in the present. So remember, in these times especially, to be in your power center of creative being. What do I want? I want to have a safe, dry shelter. I want to have food, whatever it is for you. I want to have live music and a party with the neighbors while we wait this out. You get to choose, right? And we're really not talking about the level of survival, but we are talking about humankind encountering some fairly primal fears coming up here, which is why the vantage point is really important. To have enough relationship with yourself to say, oh, what am I afraid of? Change? Death? These are things that are happening all the time on a cellular level, for the trees outside my house, and for me at some point, and gradually the death is occurring. So facing those things, there's nothing wrong with that. The sooner the better, then the more peace you can live out your life instead of fearing death and putting it aside from you as something not to think about. You're much more powerful when you allow yourself to face those fears. So fear is not the problem, but pretending that you're not in fear and continuing to forecast into the future is. So as you are, one more vantage point on here, when you get into a place of fear, a lot of times what you're doing is considering that you will be a victim or otherwise it's out of your control. But if you are in your power, which is the present moment, and you as a decisive, alive, vibrant individual being, what do you want to add to this? What do you want to create with this? Do you want to share love with others who are in panic? Do you want to share food with others who are in panic? You want to share music with others who are in panic. So, there's so many ways of you enhancing others' lives at these times as well. Absolutely. So stop playing the game, please, of, oh, this is about survival. Sure, all of life is. But what about if you came into your creative potential and power here and added to the situation and created what you want and make those pathways and miracles for yourself and others right now? Because that's what we're talking about, is opening into new ways of being for humanity. So you can be a leader in that, a change maker in how you respond and stay in the present moment with these possibilities that are going to be flying around. Much of it is false. We can tell you that as a clue. Much of it is false and not going to come to pass. So stay in the moment. Is what I fear happening? No. Okay, well, that's good. Is there some action I want to take to feel that I'm more resilient? Yeah, I want to call my neighbor and make a plan with them. That person is elderly and I want to make sure they have a ride. Something, there are ways for you to reach out to, which also puts you in a position, again, of stepping into your power and creativity rather than feeling I'm a victim, I'm overwhelmed. So that puts you on top of the wave right away. So being in the present moment is the first tool. The second tool is reach out to help someone else. So if you're in a moment of thinking, uh-oh, this might be the moment when all the dominoes fall, but I don't know yet, I'm starting to get scared. Okay, what's happening in the present moment? And then number two, who or what can I reach out to help? And this puts you right away into action, which is not something that fear is very close friends with. Fear likes to stay hiding in inaction. So those two things are going to go a long way. Stay in the present moment, reach out to help someone else. And the third thing is to look at, so let's say your immediate needs of shelter and your plan is in place. Okay. In the highest evolution of me and of the planet, how does this take us extravagantly far? How can I ride this wave? Instead of just not drowning in it, how can I really ride this wave? So look around the energy pattern. Something is creating this much feeling of fear of the future, and it's called change. What is that? What is that current of moment? That current in this moment, that energy in this moment, what is it? Because if you can ride that, if you can tap into it and ride it instead of worry about it crushing you, you can become enlightened on that energy. You can open up to new gifts. You can certainly start living in new ways. So this is an extraordinary time. Many people talk about portals and astronomical events and astrological events and volcanic events as being open inks. Well, this is an interesting confluence of energetic times for humanity, or this quarter, let's say, these 3-4 months. Provide incredible opportunities for growth, for riding that wave well beyond where you thought you would get in this lifetime. So start with your primary tools, the power of the present moment and helping others. But then as soon as you can, get right to what is this energy? What is this change? And where can I ride it? Where do I want to ride it? Where is it taking me? Not as a floating log in the sea, but where is it taking me as a seabird or a surfer? Where next? What food sources is it bringing up that are new because it's churned up something from the ocean? What delightful friends that I haven't seen for the reefs is it bringing up to the surface to visit for a moment? So destruction or change can bring delightful miracles, so many of them. But that's up to you. Again, not to feel so much that you need to, let's say, stay in one fixed point, holding on to your old prison bars, but instead to be in a languid, fluid, different energetic movements. That's the grace in this time. So it comes with fear because it's change, not because it's something to be feared. So that's an important thing perhaps to write down or tell yourself in ways that might be meaningful to you. The fear is just a human response to change. So really look at, what is this change and how can I ride it? How can I make use of this energetic time to push forward into new areas I didn't think I was going to get to in this life. I thought kind of, I'm on a nice cruise and I've benefited so much in this life, but I've come to set aside some of my bigger goals. It's time to dust those off. If you had big energetic goals and you thought, well, maybe it wasn't really going to happen in this life, this is the time to create new ones or look at those old ones and say, oh, actually there's enough velocity of change happening. I could just do that now. I could just open to that change, that enlightenment, that seed moment. It's absolutely here for humanity now. So is it possible to have a quiet time in these next few months? We'd say not yes. We'd have to be very, very much with your head in the sand to have that happen. But is it possible to have some of the biggest breakthroughs, some of the biggest successes, some of the biggest energetic resilience and power that you've ever had in this life? Yes. It does not have to be a time of destruction in a negative sense. What we're talking about is the destruction of the ordinary and the mundane in a clinical, a survival, and a structural sense. The destruction of those parameters, those limiting parameters, and coming into something quite new, quite brilliant. So from an angelic perspective, that's positive. But your perspective is up to you. We won't force that on you. You can ride this however you like. And this is Adria. I'm going to pause for questions. Feel free to type any question in the chat. I'll just pause for a moment. A little bit of delay between the broadcast and when I can see the messages. So I'm still going to wait another minute. And then, oh, thanks. Sorry about the static. I think I have a possible solution for that. Hopefully that's better. I think it's my computer phone. Question, any hints on the change that is coming? This is Raphael, Angel Raphael. Yes. For each of you it's different, so that's the first hint. We're not talking about a global catastrophe or even necessarily a financial market that would affect everyone in the same or similar ways. When change energy hits the planet, it's a little bit like when you shake a kaleidoscope, it affects the different pieces of colored glass differently. So ultimately what we're talking about is a shake-up of the feeling of change. And it really does strike or hit in individual lives differently. So that piece is up to you. But what will be similar is this feeling of velocity of change. Again, using the images of water here, it's not a trickle, it's a forceful movement. So it's a lot of change energy. So let's move into an exercise because paradoxically, in talking about how to come out of fear, brings up those fear moments a bit. And we will be delving into next weekend more about how to create without fear. It's a timely topic. It's very, very timely, not even important, we'd say, but it's your moment if you want it to be able to really rise above. This is Adria watching this incredible hawk right outside my window. This trees swooping, sort of riding upon the currents. Yes, not being battered by fear, but noticing it. Is there something there, informative or not, and rising above? It's quite timely now that you have the choice to be able to make those kinds of shifts and changes. Absolutely. So let's start with a bit of an exercise. This is Raphael. Come quietly, quietly into the place of your heart. And feel how solid that is. We want you to visit this place a lot in the coming days. Know the strength of what you are. You are vast, you are huge in your energy. If you feel another person's energy or something somewhere happening on the planet, when you are this big, when you are in your heart, you cannot be rattled, you cannot be shaken in a fundamental sense. Taste that power of what you are. This is the practice. Keep visiting this space, the space of your heart. The more you're accustomed to how large you are, how powerful you are, the more you notice how much you are in charge of whether or not to ride a current of energy, if you feel crushed by it, feel overwhelmed by it. It really is your choice. So start developing this muscle now so that you can have those breakthroughs that you've longed for. This is the time for that. Okay, this is Adria, so Angels are asking me to end for today. It's like short and sweet today, powerful. And apologies for the static. I think I can set it up better next time when my computer fan is not so close to the microphone. And keep getting better with the technology. So beautiful to be here with you today. And I feel you, even if you're listening later. It's such a sweet sense of community and presence. Thank you for being here with me with the angels. For sharing your light with the world and being here in this strong presence that we are. Thank you all of you so much. Look forward to seeing you again next month, or if you want to join the Angel Play Shop next Saturday about creating without fear. And put the link below the replay and wonderful. Lots of love to all of you.